like your car runs on gasoline, campaigns run on money. And the primary success of the campaign is often associated with how much money can be raised. Money is important for getting your candidate around, producing TV spots, running commercials, buying ads, things like that, paying your staff, paying your advisors, all those things. So the campaign is primarily concerned with raising money. Now, after the Watergate scandal, which a lot of people don't realize this, but was also a scandal about Richard Nixon taking money from what were considered by many people to be shady sources, there was an effort to reform campaign finance, to limit how politicians could take money and how much they could take. And this was the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1974. It created a commission, the Federal Elections Commission, to administer campaign finance laws, although this only applies to federal elections, so congressional and presidential elections. It also created the Presidential Election Campaign Fund, which you could donate to with your tax return. This provided partial public financing for presidential primaries. So when you're running for president in the primary, trying to get your party's nomination for office, you could the government would match your fundraising. So if you raised $20 million, they would give you $20 million out of the fund. Then in the general election, which is after you get your party's nomination and then you square off against the other candidate, so in 2012, where we're at, this would be Barack Obama for the Democrats and Mitt Romney for the Republicans. That's the general election. Candidates could choose to, instead of fundraising and trying to pay for their own campaign, to take money from this public fund. And the idea was that if candidates were given money by the government, there would not be a temptation to take money from people who might want something in return. And this this worked in 1976 and again in 1980, but ever since 1980, candidates have reverted to raising larger and larger and larger amounts of money from campaign contributors. In fact, the 2012 election looked like it might cost $2 billion, which is far beyond anything the government was providing in terms of public funds. You were supposed to, according to the FECA of 1974, disclose where you were getting your money from, the idea being that if you got your money from shady people, the media would report on it, and then you would lose support of the voters. And it limited how much both groups and individuals could give to campaigns. But that was only hard money. Hard money is money given directly to a candidate. Soft money is when you give money to a party. Well, that was not limited, so you could give a certain amount of money to the candidate himself and then turn around and give his party a lot more money. And there weren't really disclosure rules or limits on how much you could give them, so the system had a giant loophole in it. In 2002, the McCain-Feingold Act, a bipartisan bill, banned soft money and increased the amount individuals could contribute and tried to put limits on third-party groups running ads, because there was nothing stopping me from saying, I'm not going to give the money to the Republican Party or Mitt Romney, I'm just going to run an ad about how great he is, or whoever it is, Barack Obama or whatever. PACs grew. Well, what is a PAC? A PAC is a political action committee, and these were created by the 1974 law. And what they were is they allowed a group to form and take contributions and then turn around and give that contribution to candidates. And this was really a way for corporations, labor unions, groups like this to donate money to campaigns. As of 2004, there were about a little under 4,000 PACs, although they've grown dramatically since then. This says that in 2002, which was not a presidential election, it was a congressional election, PACs contributed $258 million. By 2012, that number is going to be way over $1 billion. Many people believe that PACs are a form of legalized bribery, although they are an attempt to regulate and monitor who's giving money to political candidates. You can look here. This is going back to the 2000 election, so Bush v. Gore, and you can see the amount contributed by certain PACs and the percent of money they gave to which party. I should say that for the most part, the system I just described to you has been obliterated by a 2010 Supreme Court decision called Citizens United that ruled that, actually it relied on some earlier rulings, the Buckley v. Vallejo ruling in 1976, which said that money is speech. So spending money on campaigns represents free speech. And in a case from the late 1800s that arguably said that corporations were people. And these two ideas were put together in Citizens United to rule that corporate spending on campaigns should be a protected form of free speech. And nowadays, there are essentially no limits on what corporations can spend on elections, and we're gonna look at that very closely in class. So the McCain-Feingold stuff is now out of date. That's really no longer in play, and we'll talk in class a lot more about the current system.